Welcome to the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside lovely and warming up Louisville, Kentucky, where history was made last night, and in Maryland, where history is made every day because John Webster exists in it. John, how you doing today?
Gary, I'm doing real good, man, but you're way too kind. Way, way, way too kind. Another great week in sports. Exciting things are going on. I know you're going to be talking about what happened in Louisville, Kentucky last night, but we're going to start off by talking about that Super Bowl game, which was dominated by the Seattle Seahawks. Gary, what do you think?
Well, John, if nothing else, it proves that old adage that wins championships. And I mean, you look at that game. Seattle put on a master class and then some in terms of how to keep a quarterback in check, even though he threw for 295 yards. We don't really remember too much about that because I mean, what he was sacked 7 times. Let's see, what intercepted twice, strip sack. Things that led to a touchdown. I mean, Seattle's defense. I had to really remember this is not the what is it, the Legion of Boom, Legion of Doom. I keep getting it confused with my pro wrestlers, but either way, it was the same effect because that was really, really effective. And to the to the extent, John, that it almost overshadowed what Kenneth Walker was able to do for that offense and provide offense, and to take some of the pressure off of Sam Darnold, who had his own decent game. I don't think he would have been MVP, but when you want to talk about game management and such, I mean, granted, it took like 4 field goals before they were finally able to get to the end zone. And you and I were exchanging texts about whether the kicker might be considered as an MVP candidate, considering in a game where really neither defense rather, was giving up much that. Field goals, you could almost count those as small victories if you're the New England Patriots. But Darnold took advantage. Finally, got him on the board, and I don't know if I was texting several people, and I said the first touchdown wins this game. And of course, when they got it, I pretty much felt it was a wrap there. Yes, New England came back, and I mean, they got on the board, got right back on the board, but. By then, the die was cast, and Drake May, for all of his talents, it's hard to really be effective, John, when the defense is up in your grill, 4-man fronts, and pushing the left side of your line back, like a tin can almost every play, every time he's set up in the pocket.
You know, Campbell, the left tackle for the New England Patriots, I think he gave up 2 sacks and gave up 14 pressures, which is the most pressures any lineman has given up this year. What I was first and foremost is what I'm going to say is congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. They beat the New England Patriots thoroughly. They dominated them physically and mentally throughout the entire game. Now, with that being said, I've heard some say adjustments weren't made by New England. Josh McDaniels, if this was Josh McDaniels 1 as opposed to Josh McDaniels 2, he would have flipped some things around like he's done in the past. This this is my thought. You none of us really know what's going on in a situation like that. And what do I mean? Couple things. Drake May rumored all week long that he had a bad shoulder. Nobody knows how bad it was or how good it was. He said he's going to play. And you say you're going to play, you play. No excuses. But it also can affect how you're calling the game. He did say he got an injection. Didn't feel anything, supposedly. But that still has an effect upon how you call a game. There were not a lot of RPO options for Drake May. There were not short dropbacks for Drake May. I mean, in a game like that, it's easy to sit back and look and say, okay, you should have put another offensive lineman or tight end on the side with Campbell to chip block. That's easy to say. And why do I say that? Because as you stop that hole in your boat, there's this cornerback Witherspoon coming from all over the place, still doing blitzes and still getting to the quarterback. You've covered up one situation. Great.
Yep.
Here's another one on the other side that's still coming. The running game. They didn't get 35. I said last week, I said 30, 35 carries. That did not happen. They weren't in the position. Also, Drake May is like any other quarterback, and I mean this sincerely. Even if you had a guy with a number 12 back there, when you have stuff around your feet, what do they call it? A sloppy pocket. When you have linemen and everybody slapping at your feet, you start hearing ghosts. Number 12 heard him. Don't tell me he didn't. Two
Yeah.
Super Bowls against the Giants prove he hears them.
And
Roman,
one against Philadelphia that year
yeah.
too.
And Joe Montana heard him. Johnny Unitas heard him. You can only do so much. And why do I give those examples? Those are two of the best quarterbacks ever in football. And if that line can't give you time, you become, instead of Johnny Unitas, you just become Johnny Brown. And instead of Joe Montana, you become Joe Idaho. You're just a basic person. That you
Yeah.
give credit where credit is due. Seattle beat the brakes off of them. That's what happened. It was not New England's day at all. The defense played very well. They tried to keep the offense in there. They gave up 4 field goals. Man, honestly, Gary, for a minute, I thought I was going to be able to come on the show and say, well, they kept them below 30 as a total of 14. Remember I said 30? But then the fourth quarter
Well,
came
remember,
around,
I said no team would score 30. Yeah. I mean, I think
and I said
we
both
agreed on
teams,
that.
and I said both teams together wouldn't score 30. And for 3 quarters, I looked good. And then the
Yeah.
fourth quarter came, and the defense couldn't hold anymore.
Yeah.
That defense played very well. There's nothing I can say about that defense. You gave up basically 12 points for 3.5 quarters. What else can you ask for? Now,
Hmm.
you didn't get the ball on the offensive side. You didn't get the ball enough to Diggs, I don't think. Not until the end of the game. I don't think they continued with the running game. But I think a lot of it was dictated by Seattle's defense, man. Their
Yeah.
defense is very good. And New England's offensive line is very young. On that left side, you have 2 rookies. Campbell, I forget the other kid's name. They're only going to get better. They're only going to get better. And I want to look at it's hard right now for New England. You know, you're looking at that, you want to win, but instead of looking at the shortcomings, look at some of the things they did this year. I mean, they played well against the Houston Texans defense, who is just as good, if not, I won't say better, but I think maybe just as good as Seattle's defense.
Hmm.
Um, San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers have a good defense. They played well. You know, you just, I'll say it to you like this. If the Denver Broncos had played in that game, there wouldn't have been any difference, in my opinion. The only, there's only one quarterback who made the playoffs this year who was eliminated that I think maybe could have adjusted. I'm not saying he would have won the game, but he would have adjusted. And that would be, in my opinion, Josh Allen. Because Josh Allen would have tried to be Superman and put everybody on his back. Not sure he would have been successful, but that's what he would have done. and then we go from there. But did Drake May have a rough day? Yes. Did the New England Patriots as a whole have a rough day? Yes. But give credit to the Seattle Seahawks for the rough day that they had.
Yeah, John, I agree. It makes you wonder what was the secret sauce that the Los Angeles Rams had in, what is it, two, three games that they were able to score points on that defense. I don't know if New England, thought looked at something and thought they saw some vulnerabilities or something, and exploit them in the same way that the Rams did in all those meetings. But I'm like, I was just thinking, it's like for a defense that just looked impenetrable, and it was much like last year with Philadelphia, how they dominated Kansas City. Um, when I say you didn't see any real sophisticated defensive looks up front, I say that from a standpoint is um, that in some ways with four-man fronts, maybe, like you said, bringing a defensive back, bringing a safety, or maybe bringing another linebacker in or something on a blitz. I didn't see anything really exotic that they did, that that really flummoxed New England. It was like they really kind of stayed with their basic set in regards to that in terms of how many they rushed. They just found a vulnerability on the left side of New England's line that they just said, "Look, we're going to keep pushing, until you all stop us or at least slow us down." And they just couldn't do that. That says more about Seattle than it does about New England, which clearly has work to do. And like you said, the left side of that line, the rookies, they will get better because they have to get better. Mike Vrabel is too good a coach, especially when it comes to defense, to let them to let his defense get down on that. But I think about what you said about, say quarterbacks that get to their first Super Bowl and lose, that it's really hard for them to get back. There've been some exceptions such as Jalen Hurts, who won a Super Bowl. But I think for Drake May, yeah, I do. I had wondered whether that shoulder injury affected him. I'm a little surprised that they didn't adjust by trying to get more of a running game to take the pressure off of him. Maybe throw some more passes out of the backfield or something just to, again, just to beat that rush. But again, it goes to Seattle not allowing them to do anything basically that they wanted to do. And is this going to be the makings of a dynasty? Well, I always say time out to that because unless they got a red helmet with KC on it, there is no dynasty right now. We wondered whether Philadelphia would be a dynasty after what that defense did, after what the offense did last year, but they struggled to stop teams. I mean, the defense was still effective, but the offense just never really got in sync for a whole variety of reasons. So I think we have to just enjoy this Seattle defense, this Seattle victory for what it was this year, and see what happens next year. Because again, and I heard it last night, that honestly, if you asked who you thought was going to be in the Super Bowl, neither Seattle nor New England crossed your lips. Even if you love both of those teams did not cross your lips. And you have to be honest about that. So that's what made the game intriguing on the one hand. But again, I just think that this game is so transient because things change so much. Coaches change teams, coordinators go on to other jobs, and then that chemistry is lost. And of course, players move on, free agency, trades, whatever. Excuse me. It's always a different look. So we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you, Gary. And also, Seattle plays in what I think is the hardest division in the NFC, which is the
Oh,
NFC West. I mean,
yeah.
you have three no, tremendously talented and equal teams in the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. Then you also have one boys club team in there, the Arizona Cardinals. So everybody's homecoming wish. I'm sorry, Gary. I can't believe I'm saying this about. I don't mean
Oh
it. I'm
man,
sorry. I'm sorry.
not not
I'm
boys
sorry.
club.
That's not right. That's not right.
Okay, but
I
but
apologize
but
to you and the Arizona Cardinal fans and also the organization. That was absolutely wrong of me to say that. But you get my point though. That's a
yeah,
powerful division. I'm not even sure. Looking at it right now, if Seattle can even just repeat and win the Western Division. I'm not even sure
yeah,
they can
that's
do
the thing.
that.
Yeah, just like I feel like LA is a team. The Rams are a team that um, they were just missing that one piece. Well, they were definitely missing a few pieces, especially on defense, because especially in the last two games, that even when they seem to have momentum, even if they seem to have a lead, that you just knew that Seattle was going to exploit some vulnerability in their defense, and that's what they did. If they can shore up that side of the ball, get a little bit more protection for Matthew Stafford, who, John, when he won the Super Bowl a few years ago, and everybody was saying he was a lock for the Hall of Fame because he won a Super Bowl. And I said, okay, time out, cool your jets, pump the brakes, because it's easy to jump on a quarterback who wins a Super Bowl. But looking at the sustained success that he's had since then, of course, you think about what he had in Detroit, but before that, but particularly the last couple of years, he really has bolstered his credentials to the point where I feel like before he retires, he could very well get another Super Bowl. It again, and coming out of that division, yeah, if they can win that division, if they can win the conference, I do think he can get another Super Bowl because of how good they are. I think San Francisco is a team that has potential as well because they have a lot. Remember, they lost a few pieces from a couple of years ago, and yet we're still very, very competitive. So, again, you're right saying that that is the best division in football. We didn't really think it would be that division, but I feel like the Lombardi Trophy kind of goes to that division now, thanks to Seattle and the teams that actually made them better. Because you got to get past the familiar faces before you can get to a Super Bowl.
You're right. It's going to be interesting next year. I will say this. I don't think you'll have a repeat Super Bowl champion. Just like this year, I was saying Philadelphia wouldn't repeat. Seattle's not going to repeat next year. Uh, it's too hard now, man. I mean, like you said, unless your team is called the Kansas City Chiefs or old school New England Patriots, it's just very, very hard to put together back to back Super Bowl championships, man.
Yeah,
It's hard
and
enough to win one.
yeah, and now that you see a Super Bowl like this, it really helps you put in context what Patrick Mahomes was able to achieve with Kansas City in terms of being, even when he wasn't a dominant quarterback, he was a quarterback that could get his team in a position to win games maybe that they weren't supposed to, that you always knew that they were a threat. You thought more about them than what you had to do until Philadelphia came along and just took them completely out of their game and really out of they took their psyche away with that. And it remains to be seen whether Mahomes will come back next season, from his injury. I think you're looking at a league, where several key players, are coming back from injuries, but somebody's going to figure out the Seattle Seahawks. It may be within their own division. It could be within their conference. Because do you think Philadelphia is done? I don't. Do you think Green Bay is done? I don't. The team to really look at is the Chicago Bears because they're up and coming, and that's a team that I think they didn't realize how good they were even when they were playing, and guess what? It came down to basically a field goal for them. Just a mistake
Hmm.
that led to a field goal. That's how close that margin is for them getting to that next level. And when you've got a young quarterback who gained a whole lot of confidence this year, and is probably going to have a few more weapons around him next year if the Bears do things correctly, then you're looking at a team that could not only could challenge Seattle, but could be a contender that could go to the Super Bowl and possibly win, which would make a whole lot of Chicago people happy. And on another note, speaking of Seattle, I'll just say it like this. I think the best thing if you're a Seattle fan is that with this unexpected Super Bowl, it really takes away some of the sting of when the Mariners lost in the ALCS, because that was a team I thought was really was really that close to getting to their first World Series, and I think that really stung people up there because that was a team that seemed destined for something, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, they lost a rough series. So,
Yeah,
but we'll see how they bounce back in baseball. And baseball is a couple weeks away with pitchers and catchers coming in.
today,
But
today, John, as we
it's
speak,
today. It's today.
pitchers and catchers report.
Oh my goodness, man. Oh
Yes,
my goodness.
indeed.
And you
Yes.
know what? Let's segue. That's a nice segue. And we're gonna just take a couple seconds, a couple minutes on baseball. And I'll just say this to you. Everybody knows I'm a big Orioles fan. Um, I think everybody also knows the Orioles are looking for another starting pitcher. And another starting pitcher would be nice at the top of your rotation. But my grandmother used to have an old saying. Maybe yours had the same thing. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. What do I mean? As the Orioles search for a top of the line starting pitcher, number one, that starting pitcher may already be on the rotation, may already be on the staff. So we'll see how that goes. And
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, but grandmother. My grandmother was a huge Cincinnati Reds fan, and she was a Reds fan during during the big red machine days.
mhm.
I remember, when we'd go stay with her, it's like whatever we were watching on TV, we had to be done by 7 o'clock because those Reds were going to be on that TV, and we had to
Mhm.
go play outside or watch the game with her. Yeah, or if it wasn't on TV, we'd listen to it on the radio. I'm really dating myself on that one, but you know how, John, hey, look, we had transistor radios. Remember, we listened to ball games then. But the thing about the Reds too, that like you just mentioned, I mean, about homegrown talent. That's the thing that was so impressive about the Reds that, yeah, other than trading for Joe Morgan and yeah, maybe a couple other guys, but a lot of those pitchers were homegrown in the system. And I think if you're the Orioles, you have to you almost have to dance with what brung you. You have to develop whatever you have in your system, and recognize the potential instead of maybe trying to throw money at a free agent to come in. Because really, John, teams are built from within. Sustained success is built from within. Look at the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm trying to think of another team. Well, I'll say look at the Milwaukee Brewers for that matter. The Chicago Cubs. To have teams like that, St. Louis Cardinals. Again, a lot of it just starts with your scouting system, and yes, you bolster that with with a trade here and there, and you got a successful team. The Orioles did it, so I think they can do it again. Just keep the guys you got and trust the process. That's what I think
That's
that
true.
management needs. They just need to trust the process.
You got a lot of fans who are concerned because they didn't sign Valdez, they didn't sign Ranger Suarez, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I would have loved to sign either one of them. I
Mhm.
absolutely would have, but maybe it's for the better that they didn't. Maybe you need to look at instead of one, you may need to look at having pitchers because of the ballpark you play in. It's kind of, it's a bandbox ballpark. Home runs are going, especially when it gets into July and August, home runs are flying out of that place. You may need to have a plethora of pitchers, long relief, short relief, to go with your starters to help you get through. I think the everyday players, I think if they play to their potential, their everyday players are in really good shape. There is a concern about center field because Colton Cowser is really not a center fielder, but you're going to put him there, and hopefully he will continue to develop. But in infield, my goodness, man, you got Jackson Holiday, you got Gunnar Henderson, you got Jordan Westberg, you got Pete Alonso, you got Sammy Basayo behind the plate with Adley Rushman. That's pretty good. And then you got Dylan Beavers up in one of those corner outfield spots. I think they are everyday players. They're in good shape. You just got to figure out one more starting pitcher. And sometimes, like I said, you can't see the forest for the trees. Maybe that number one is already on your staff, and you may need another pitcher, but that number one is your number one. And we'll see how that plays out. I think they do need another starting pitcher, but I'm not sure that starting pitcher, whoever they bring in, will be the number one. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, John, with those four glorious words, pitchers and catchers report, that might help melt some of the snow here in Kentucky and in Maryland, keeping us warm for the next 6 weeks.
I tell you what melted some snow in Kentucky last night. Mikael Brown. Yeah, he melted a
Yeah.
lot of snow last night, didn't
Oh,
he?
yeah. I tell you, Michael Brown was there was just a point, John, where it got ridiculous.
What he put up? 45?
45 points to tie Wes Unseld's program record and to topple Cooper Flagg's ACC rookie record, freshman record set just last season. Impressive on a number of levels, not just by how he did it. And as I wrote a piece that I said, if he hadn't mishandled going up for a dunk and had to kind of brace himself on the rim. It looked like he just missed the dunk, but he just mishandled the ball going up and had to brace himself against the rim. He could have had the school record all to himself, at least the men's program record. Asia Dewar really actually holds the Louisville school record with 47 points. Set a few years ago. But still putting it in context for a kid who's only 6 games back from missing 8 games with a back injury. Um, it's been feast or famine with his shooting. I mean, I've covered several games where I've seen both, and the game coming in, he had 12 points against Wake Forest, but I think it was maybe something like 2 of 7, 2 of 8. He did most of it at the foul line, but he told one of my colleagues that he was still confident in his game. And sometimes, John, all it takes is one shot, and I think when he hit his first three, I think that was a confidence boost in one regard in the first half. But then he strung together something like 4 or 5 just before the just before halftime. And, in a sports writer's mind, you're thinking, okay, this kid could be on to something. And that's when you grab the record book and just say, okay, he could potentially reach his career high, which, he had 29 against Kentucky back in November. Um, uh, you know, whether we didn't think he would do that, but then he gets close. Then when he crosses 30 points, you start thinking, okay, well, look in the record book. LaBradford Smith, who had the freshman record, obliterated that. So then fans start cheering to see whether he can get the 40 points, and he gets that. And then you start looking and you see one Wesley Unseld, and it's that if that's doable. And the three that he tied the record with, John, was just beyond the dunking Cardinal
Mm-hmm.
logo, that classic logo. I mean, dead center.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, holy cow. That was, I mean, that John, you could just feel the energy in that place, and you're happy for the kid. You really are,
Mm-hmm.
because um, I think what became clear last night, all the hype about him, whether he goes to the NBA, I don't doubt that he's going to be in the lottery. And if he's not a lottery pick, he's probably going to be on somebody's NBA roster a year from now. But a game like that illustrates just how well it works if you're a team that relies on a three. And of course, a lot of college teams rely on a three now. But what we say about shooters is either feast or famine. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you when they're falling, John, you're just in a zone. Um, what was lost in all that? Ryan Conwell, who entered the game as the number seven scorer in the ACC, had 31 points, and that was almost an afterthought. That's just how bad. And another thing that was lost, Louisville hit 18, excuse me. No, yeah, they hit 18 threes last night. That was
And
their
as a what did they score last night? 100 and what?
118.
Wow.
118. Yeah. So, man, I had the stats somewhere nearby, but it's like they hit 18 threes last night, and that was their second most. That tied for the second most this season, which tells you how much they rely on their perimeter game. And really, that was the one that they hit. They hit 20 against NJIT, and I don't even think Michael Brown was a big factor in that. Everybody was hitting them. I think that's the amazing thing. Louisville really needed a game like that because I think they were demoralized really by two losses to Duke over the past month. That one down in Durham where they just weren't in. I mean, Duke just ran them out of the building from the beginning, and again, that kind of thing happens in sports. But I think in terms of the long term for Louisville, they needed a game like that to remind themselves that they're more than, say, just a couple of guys, and that when everybody is hitting, when they're passing the ball, and that's the other thing too. Louisville's game is really predicated on getting that ball around and setting each
Mm.
other up, finding the open man. I mean, they're like one of the top assist teams in the nation as well. And you can't have a good outside game like that unless you work the ball around. And I think when they find each other, and again, anything can happen when the ball goes up, but if you can get it to the right guy and they can get a good look, some good things are going to happen. Look at Duke, and we've talked about what a man among boys that Cameron Boozer is right now. Um, that he's a guy too. Yes, they lost to North Carolina, and credit to Hubert Davis for getting that one. But you know they when things like he's a guy that can hit a three as well as go inside. He'll probably be the number one pick unless there's somebody out there that I'm missing. But
Yeah, they
yeah,
keep talking about this kid, and he seems to be out in the Midwest. He seems to play in a facility called Fog Allen Fieldhouse. His name happens to be Darren Peterson.
oh yeah. 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 I that you know. I did not get a chance to watch that game because I was riding up Michael Brown, but man, Kansas and toppling Arizona.
Hey,
Um,
Gary, let me give you a piece of pie.
mhm.
They beat Arizona last night. Darren Peterson didn't play. He was out with flu-like symptoms.
That's right. That's right. Like I said, that was a game I didn't pay attention to. But John,
Yeah, but Kansas is tough, man.
I
Bill Self
know.
has a
Yeah.
good program year in and year out.
Yeah. I don't think Bill Self gets nearly enough credit for
Agree.
for just his recruiting and his coaching. The
Yep.
amazing thing, and I know that sounds strange for a guy that has won what, two national championships
Mhm.
and what
He's been to
lost.
like he's been to like three or four Final Fours.
Yeah, yeah. But I think somebody, like people want to say, well, okay, yeah, he can recruit well. But again, you don't get to that kind of level without being a good coach. And what they did last night, the amazing stat, John, that we talked about before, was that I think that Kansas beat an AP number one for the first time on their home floor, at least in Fog Allen Fieldhouse, which was an amazing stat. I
Well,
can't.
they're 6-0 at home against top two teams under the Bill
Yeah,
Self regime. Um, I'm not sure if that was
I
the first number one they beaten, but
think it was.
I'll tell you something about Arizona. Arizona lost, but Arizona's no joke, man.
Oh
They
no.
are tough. What's the guy's name? Tommy, what is it? Tommy Floyd, Tommy something, the coach at Arizona.
Yeah,
He does a wonderful job. Now they got the next three games for them are ridiculous. They got Texas Tech, BYU, and Houston, and they go to Houston next Saturday. And Gary, you are a on the sports journal, sports reporter. You know how hard it is to go down there in Houston and play against a Kelvin Sampson team. I mean, and plus nobody's going to score above 50 either team, and it's just they play hard down there, man. Kelvin said that's another coach I don't think gets enough credit for being a very good coach. You
yeah,
know, he does
yeah.
a really good job over there, man. And I mean, he was in what was he in the American Athletic Association. He was in the same conference as Memphis State or Memphis.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
winning that
yeah.
regularly. They leave to go to the Big 12, and guess what they do the first year to go to the Big
They
12?
go to
They win
Final
the Big
Four.
12.
Yeah, and yeah. They reached the Final Four too, right?
They
Yeah,
went. They went
I
to the
mean they reached the
championship game.
championship game last year, right?
Lost to Florida. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he a lot of good stuff, man. A lot of good stuff.
And he's a guy I want to see win a championship, not just
Mm-hmm.
because he's a good coach, but I mean, you think about the Houston program and Guy Lewis and all the ridiculous talent that he has groomed. Elvin Hayes, Akeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler. Phi Slamma Jamma, probably the greatest team that didn't win a championship. Um,
Gary, I got a
and
question for you. I got a
oh,
question for you.
okay,
And you led me right into it saying one of the greatest teams to not win. Here's the question. What's the bigger upset? NC State beating Houston or Villanova beating Georgetown?
John.
I see the bubbles over your head percolating, Gary.
Yeah, and I'll say it like this. John is Villanova still remains the biggest upset because you look at that Georgetown team, um, and what's lost in that game. We talk about Villanova shooting 78% for the game to win
Mm-hmm.
that. It was impressive. Georgetown, I think, shot something like 60% or better and still only lost by what? It was a one possession game. What, 2 point?
2 point. They
2 point.
shot 64%.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Now,
it
now,
was
now,
like it was Georgetown did everything but maybe make that extra basket where Villanova couldn't seemingly miss anything. And I think that that's a bigger upset because Villanova had to play the perfect game. It's one thing to have Lorenzo Charles, grab like a missed shot and slam it through. Yeah, that was an upset. That was a memorable one. But I still think Villanova beating Georgetown, a powerhouse Georgetown that was coming off of a championship and was in their third Final Four in what third
four
Final
years.
Four in 4 years. And here's a trivia question: the year that they didn't make the Final Four, who did they lose to? Who
Michigan
did
State,
Georgetown
Scott
lose to?
Skiles. Michigan State, Scott Skiles.
Or Memphis?
I think they lost to.
It might have
You
been
talking about the
Michigan
year?
State.
You talking about the year they didn't make it? I
Yeah,
think the year they didn't make it.
1983.
I thought it was Michigan State. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, we have to go to one of our fact checkers and see. But yeah, I mean, and I think that was a Keith Lee Memphis State team.
Memphis State, Keith Lee, Andre Turner. I think
Oh,
William
yeah.
Bedford was still on that team. So
Yeah. That was
now let me say this, Gary. Let me just say this. I hear what you're saying about Georgetown. I mean, being the bigger upset. Here's why I would say NC State beating Houston is the bigger upset. Georgetown and Villanova played in the Big East that year. And that was the third time they played each other. And the two previous games, Villanova was right there until the last 2 minutes and had leads in those games. Played them hard. So they were not in awe of that Georgetown persona. They came out and played them and they beat them. I mean, it was a big upset. But I think when I look at it, and I see that Big East and that rivalry that goes with the Big East and Georgetown, Villanova, Georgetown, St. John's, Georgetown, whoever. I think records go out the window and mystique goes out the window, and it just comes
mhm.
back down to who's going to gut this out.
Yeah.
And I
But
think that's what happened to him.
yeah.
But that's not taking anything away from. I don't want to take anything away from Villanova. That was a great
No.
win by
I
them.
mean,
But
yeah, I mean, when a team shoots 78%, you I mean, you're going to win a game. That's it. They had to play the perfect game and they did. And oh yeah, it was Memphis State that beat Georgetown that year.
Memphis State beat them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What
Yeah.
was the score? What was the score?
66-57. And that one I want to say second round. That
Okay.
was the second round loss. The thing about Louisville last night too, just going back to that, was I didn't write this, but Louisville was wearing what was known as the West Unseld uniforms, as it turns out, the ones that they had during
Mm-hmm.
the 60s, these
Mm-hmm.
throwbacks. Um, and it was a lot of things this year have been kind of a throwback to, like, say, the other glory days of Wes Unseld, of Denny Crum, of um, Milt Wagner, and
Billy
Daryl Griffith.
Thompson.
Yeah, yeah,
Daryl
and
Griffith.
the thing that about Louisville that reminded me of the old days last night wasn't so much about the uniforms, but it was kind of like some of the music that they played. Some of it was from the 80s, and I keep thinking about those old Metro Conference days when they would go
Mm-hmm.
against Memphis State. And John, they had to have extra security because, I mean, those were some brawls.
You remember Florida State was in that Metro Conference too.
That's right. That's right. Woo, man, I think Virginia Tech was in that conference around that
Mm-hmm.
time too. And
What was the
and
guy's name that coached Florida State? Was it Pat Kennedy?
yeah, Pat Kennedy. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep. Um, I'm trying to remember who coached Virginia Tech back then. Oh, it's escaping me, but Good night, man. Those days, that's one conference that I miss. It's like when I see Louisville in the ACC, I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's great for them. But man, back in the day, to see those old Metro Conference games, and they would be on CBS, and
Mm.
those were you talk about slugfest and slobber knockers. That's what those games were back then. Oh, that was some fun basketball.
Hey Gary, man, as always, our times done got away from us. We done sat on the front porch like two old men reminiscing. Take us
Yep.
home, man.
All right, let's see. Well, we didn't really get into the Winter Olympics, which started over the weekend, but we can come back to that next time. Maybe there'll be some more to talk about with U.S. men's and women's hockey, both of which are expected to go deep in their competitions. Maybe I'll have something to say about curling and speed skating. Don't ask me about figure skating, but hey, it's worth watching anyway because it's competition. And of course, Haiti had a cross country skier. So
Mm.
Haiti, and while he didn't, finish in the money, so to speak, that it was just something to see that kind of human spirit. Our prayers go out to Lindsey Vonn and her recovery of, re-injuring her leg that she had re-injured just a few days before. Um, Prayers for her recovery, and of course it wouldn't surprise me that maybe a year from now that we see her back out on a course skiing again. But there are things like that. Oh yeah, the NBA All-Star game, what is it, USA versus the world? That's going to be an interesting thing. And John, I'm telling you, if I see some defense in that game, I will not say a bad thing about the NBA ever again. That's what I think people want to see. They want to see them compete, not just come down and jack up three-pointers. So let's see how that turns out. And of course, we still have college basketball to fill the bill now that football is done. We take a deep breath, we sigh, and remember what our loved ones look like. Try to remember their names. Hopefully, they have it written down somewhere that you can remember what your wife's name is, John. Um, and I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, another great week in sports. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in with us again. Watch some basketball. You got college and men's and women's college basketball. You got the NBA All-Star game coming up this week and All-Star festivities as well. Spring training has started with the pitchers and the catchers coming into town for Major League Baseball. You got some soccer going on and NHL hockey. But above all else, just check out some sports. Come back and see us. Take care.